Well, it's another beautiful Friday morning on the space coast of Florida. Actually, I'm on the west coast of Florida on the Gulf of Mexico, and we're going to be talking to Marc this morning. He's on the east coast of Florida, over on the space coast in the Cocoa Beach area. And I love just saying that, the great space coast of Florida. Remember when I was in high school, we used to watch the Great Space Coaster in the morning in the Gary Gnu's show. There's no Gnu's like Gary Gnu's. And great stuff. But anyway, back to Marc. We're going to get a great fishing report from the space coast of Florida from Marc Krsek. We're going to be looking at some Banks lures, checking out a couple of different designs that they make. They have some soft baits, they have some hard baits, wood baits, all handmade, all made in Florida. And you're going to see video and pictures and everything about how they work here in Florida. So those are Banks lures, bankslures.com if you want to check them out while Marc's talking to us. And anyway, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to our conversation with Marc Krsek on the space coast of Florida.
Hey Frank, how you doing this morning, buddy?
Hey Marc, good morning. How are you?
I'm not too bad, man.
How's the weather over there?
As a matter of fact, it's beautiful. I'm out back in the backyard right now, and it's dead calm, and so that's a perfect recipe for great sight fishing right there.
Boy, that's for sure. How you been making out the past while? I know the weather was pretty bad down there all across Florida for the past few days, but it sure cleared up a little bit today.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty for a while there, but I got out yesterday for the first time in about a week, and the fish are definitely out and about. I didn't set the wall on fire. I got a 25-inch trout, 31-inch red, but there's definitely activity on the flats. If you can find the flats with the bait, then you're pretty much in there.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, I've been looking at your posts. You've been using, Banks lures. Their soft baits are just absolutely doing an incredible job over there on that coast. I got to try those over here. I'm gonna have to go to their website and just get some here pretty quick because
they're great.
Well, it's everything, Marc. Every person I look at that's fishing them on the other coast there, I mean, you guys are just pulling in these gigantic reds. I mean, just beautiful fish. I mean, even the small ones are big, to our standards over here on the Gulf.
Yeah, you can't beat it. I mean, these lures are great, and you can put them in anybody's hands, and as long as they're fishing where the fish are, you're going to feel that.
Incredible. I love it. So, yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the Space Coast there?
Well, it's going off anywhere you go. It really doesn't matter. I mean, the Mosquito Lagoon's great. You got the North Indian River. And I mean, any flats, like I said, that you can find with bait, you're going to find predator fish staged up nearby. Another good thing to look for is good pothole structure, especially with the redfish. Redfish love edges of any kind, so they're going to be kind of cruising the edges of the potholes, waiting for the mullet to venture out in the open where they can ambush. So things like that are great things to keep in mind. Nice pothole structure, and the wind is another factor. I launch basically more or less based on where the wind is blowing and how can I get out of the wind. When you get out of the wind and it's nice and calm, it's so much easier to fish. The fish are more agreeable. I mean, you can catch them in the wind, and it's actually kind of beneficial to you when you're sneaking up on them in the wind because you kind of use it as camouflage and you can get a lot closer to the fish. But on the flip side, it's harder for you to see the fish. But yeah, I mean, anywhere you go right now, I mean, the Banana River's going off, the no motor zone, a lot of fish in there. That's where I was yesterday. And like I say, anywhere that you find bait, you're most likely going to find fish. The big trout are just everywhere right now, and anybody can go get them. The best way to get them is in the early morning on a top water. And if you're throwing top waters in the early morning, you're bound to get a big trout. And the most important thing with them, especially this time of year, they're spawning. You want to really handle them gently because a large trout, they're fragile.
Sure.
And it doesn't take much to kill them. I mean, and it's as simple as grabbing them with a dry hand, and peeling the scales off might not kill them right away. But then they get infections and things like that. And so what you want to do with them big trout, you never want to jaw hang them, to weigh them. Don't ever weigh them. And if you do measure them, make sure you wet your them down on it. And same thing with your hands before you scoop them out of the water. Definitely wet your hands because if not, like I said, the scales will stick to you, and then they're open to infections and pathogens and all that bad stuff. So and they're the future of the stock. So you gotta really really be careful with them.
Well, that's a big thing right there. They're the future stock, and right now I know all around Florida the big trout are spawning, so they're coming up into the estuaries. There's some just monsters that are coming right up on the flats, and like you say, if you're not careful and you don't take care of them, they will eventually die if you scrape some scales off or do some damage to them. So yeah, if you want those fish there to catch next week, you really need to pay attention and use your head when you're handling them. Be kind to them, that's for sure.
They are very fragile, and like you said, the big ones are definitely out and about. I had one yesterday. I was stalking for about 5 minutes, and I honestly thought it was an overslot red. turned out to be a trout about as long as my arm.
Very nice. Well, let me ask you this: the question of the day. I'm at Banks Lures right now, and I know you're talking about a little bit of topwater action. What are you using to get those big trout out there?
In the early morning periods, I'm using the Banks Fender Walker. I'm using it in the 4-inch. The 5-inch would also work. That pretty much, and if you have an overcast day, you can expect that topwater bite to just continue and stay strong up until, whenever the sun peaks out. When the sun starts climbing, then the topwater bite kind of backs off. I mean, you can get strikes in the middle of the day on a topwater.
Sure.
But a better choice is to go subsurface with, the flat scraper's great. That's what I've been tossing, and they really respond to it. The colors, that clean water situation this type of year, so you want to use natural and lighter colors. I'm throwing the one called Silver Bullet, which is basically almost a clear with silver glitter in there, and man, in the clean water, that thing just looks great. And you've got the Flats Creeper, which I rig on a 5-aught twist lock hook. Any 5-aught twist lock hook will do. You don't want to go too small on the hook because it's got the razor belly, which gives the lure a better profile. So you kind of got to get a 5-aught in there so your shank of your hook's not tucked up in the bait.
Sure, I understand what you're saying.
And then you've got the...
I'm sorry. I apologize. I cut you off there. Sorry about that, Mark. You go ahead.
You're all right.
I'm a yapper, buddy. I apologize for that.
You've also got a Dock Boss, which, and if you look at the tail of the Dock Boss, it's kind of molded to look like a shrimp. And with this lure, it's pretty versatile because you can make it look like a finger mullet by working it faster. It's got a shrimpy tail on it, and if you can make it look like a finger mullet by giving it frequent twitches, or if you kind of give sharp upward twitches of the rod, you can make it look like a shrimp kind of popping up out of the grass, and it really does. And he's engineered it so the glide on the way down looks just like a shrimp gliding down. And the colors, if you look at the colors on the website, there's a color called the copper, and man, it looks just like a shrimp. And that's I've got a sleeve of those in my binder, and instead of throwing a DOA shrimp or an exude shrimp, I can throw that Dock Boss out there and make it look just like a shrimp.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Beautiful bait.
But yeah, I mean, all the soft plastics are great. And the Dock Boss and the Mangrove Mercenary, I rigged those on a 3-aught twist lock hook. And I mean, you can't beat them. They're top-notch lures, and they just catch fish. I mean, there's no question about it.
Well, I'll tell you, even looking at it says the copper, that color is so natural looking. I mean, the little speck they put in there to give it that shrimp look, it's really a beautiful bait. And like you say, with the laser cut underneath on some of these, if you choose those, like Hitman that he has here, you could really hide the hook very nicely underneath, just beautifully, to get into those tight, nasty areas where you really don't want to get hung up on weeds and stuff. Just great choice.
Yep, and if you look at the eyes on these baits, they have an orange ring around them. And we have another guy on our pro staff, Justin Ritchie. He's a great guy. He's just tearing them up lately, and he caught a 28-inch trout the other night. And the camera caught it just right to where you can see the eye reflecting. And it looks just like the way the shrimp's eyes reflect. So, I mean, there's a lot of homework that went into this and just some subtle little details that make all the difference in the world.
Oh, yeah, you can tell, like I said, by looking at it. Now, if you get a chance, anybody listening, go to bankslures.com, and you can click on their soft baits or their plugs and check all this out for yourself. In fact, I was looking at their plugs. He has a deal. If you buy 5 lures, they'll ship them free.
So for the price of them and everything, I mean, you're really getting a good deal for this price, this size lure, and they're quality baits. And the thing is, and I always say, when we talk to the pro staffers, these guys are out there testing these baits. They know what does and doesn't work. They're reporting back to the manufacturer, to really zero in on a quality bait that works here in Florida, and actually around the country. I mean, you could use these baits just about any place. The colors are incredible. So and
they're also killing the bass on them right now as well.
That's what I heard, the same thing. When you get up to like the party popper, I love the look of that. I would go crazy in freshwater with that little bugger, especially I was looking at this, the redhead and white body. Well, even the black and silver I do really good with. And it looks like just a fantastic freshwater bait.
Yeah, but he's got a great lineup, and like at bankslures.com, you can see them all. You can order from there. We've also got them in the area tackle shops. Titusville, we've got them in KBB Outfitters. And also Mosquito Lagoon Bait and Tackle, and we've got them in Native Waters up there in Edgewater. And if you can't find them in the tackle stores, definitely order them. And he can also do custom colors. That's the big thing. If you've got a color that you want and you send him a picture of the color, and he'll color match it, and he can basically dream up anything you want. So definitely, if you want some custom colors, get in touch with him, send him an email, tell him what you want, send him an example, and if you can think it, he can make it.
That's just it. When it comes to tournament fishing and anybody that's really serious about catching, local fish, if you can find a manufacturer that'll do that, you call them up, you talk to them, you send them a video or a picture and say, I love this bait, I love this plug, it works great, but if I had something in the chartreuse with a little bloodline in it, I think I'd do a little bit better. And to have somebody that'll manufacture that for you, produce it, send it to you is invaluable. I mean, it's just awesome.
And he's armed with an airbrush as well, so he can do it too. It's a great thing. I've got some real good customs off him, and I've never heard of any other lure company that will mold you whatever you want. That's pretty cool. So if you've got any colors in mind, definitely get a hold of Captain Ricky Banks, and he'll mold you up whatever you can think of.
Yeah, it really, even the kind of looking at the scale mark and everything else that they put on their baits, it's just great. If you get that side-to-side action on a walker, or even something that you're pulling under the water, getting that jetting, darting action, when you have nice defined scale marks like this that are really going to reflect it, it actually, if you ever see these underwater, when you first give it a jerk underneath the sunlight, seeing the surface of the water from underneath, it looks like little glittering scales actually flaking on the fish. And
and see, a lot of people think that the sides or the top of a topwater, don't come into play, but those scales that you were talking about, they still catch the sunlight and they cast it down into the water. So that's giving it just a little more flash and making it look a little more natural. So everything, he's really thought out these lures well, and they prove themselves every time I hit the water. They're great. I would never fish with anything else.
Oh yeah, it's just a great combination. You get guys like Marc out there, Marc himself testing this stuff. Somebody like Captain Banks that's back at the shop and at the office engineering what they're being tested. It's just a great combination. It makes baits that work, and more importantly, when you're here in Florida, you're over in Titusville, you're here in Charlotte County, you want to get a local bait, it works, the locals use it, and it's been tested in local waters. So it's just a win-win.
And good thing about over there where you're at, if you get some, the fish probably hadn't seen too many of them.
Well,
you better get you a couple bags.
But I'll tell you right now, as a matter of fact, I'm going to get Chris out here. He thinks I'm his wife. I'm telling you, he tells me he's going to go fishing, then I don't hear from him for 2 weeks. And I'm going to get a couple of sacks of those baits for him. He's really good with the soft plastics especially, and he likes to get right up in there underneath the mangroves. He's casting in the roots of the mangroves, and I'll tell you, just like you guys, he'll pull out some big reds, so I'd really like to get some of these baits and throw them in front of him. So we're definitely going to hook Chris up over here and see how these baits do here in Charlotte Harbor, and matter of fact, I'm going to do it this afternoon. I'm going to write it down here so I don't forget. But and I'll tell you what too, you folks, if you get a chance, check out Marc's Facebook page. It's Space Coast Fishing Class. It's really a great information. He's got a great class that he hosts over on the other coast, Cocoa Beach, Space Coast of Florida. And definitely follow it, become a friend, and get see some of these posts that he's putting up. It'll take your breath away. I'll tell you right now, it'll make you real jealous. You think, wow, these are just big, huge fish everywhere. So
I went out here yesterday, and for about 3 or 4 hours, I just watched them. I mean, there was so many fish up on that flat. I didn't really start throwing on until the end of the day, but it was amazing to just, and the clarity is 100% perfect, and the sun was out, and just to watch the way the fish use the flat, and it's just, I mean, it's amazing out there. And this is the time of year to get out there and catch some fish. The water's clear, you know, in a couple months it's going to be nasty, murky, and sight fishing is going to be tough. So if you're on the Space Coast and you want to get out there and get some reds or some trout, right now is the time. Definitely get off the couch, get out there. Be careful this weekend because there is the IFA tournament going on up here in Titusville, and it's back-to-back. On Saturday you've got the boats, on Sunday you've got the kayaks. So those areas are going to be, there's going to be some bumper traffic up there. So if you're up there in Titusville fishing, definitely keep your eyes open and just watch for everybody.
Oh yeah, that should be a pretty good tournament. They got a lot of people. I think there's just under 200 people in there, so that should be a great turnout. From what I understand, they're giving away. I don't know if it's a bass boat or a skiff, or I know there's a boat they're giving away as the first place prize winner. So yeah, that should be a pretty good competition up there. But well, I'll tell you what though, Mark. When it comes to the Space Coast of Florida, the fish and everything, Banana River, that whole Mosquito Lagoon area, you know, you're in a kayak, it's clear water, it's clear days. Now you're saying you're using light color baits. You're getting in there with really light. You're not using the dark stuff, the blacks, the dark purples. You're up there playing with the light colored baits, huh?
Yep, and see, you kind of want your bait to blend in with the environment, because that's kind of what the fish are seeing, to my understanding. Nobody knows for sure, but I kind of save the darker stuff for when it gets murky, because the fish are basically seeing a dark silhouette in that murk, so you kind of want to naturally match what the fish are seeing, and in the lighter color water with the sandy potholes, I like to use something, either a natural pattern or just a light color in general. But and if it's overcast, I'll throw white. I mean, white I've done good with in all situations, but like if it's overcast and there's no sun, then I'll throw some white. But when the sun comes up and it illuminates everything, then you want to switch to your lighter colors, and basically just match your lure to the sky and the water conditions. Basically, if it's dark and murky, throw something dark. If it's light and illuminated, then you want to throw something light that's going to kind of blend in a little bit.
Oh, sure.
I mean, they will hit any color at any given time if you're presenting it right. But, you know, you kind of want to, you got a leg up if you naturally match the silhouette that they're down there seeing. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. You know, I might be completely wrong, but it's never really, it seems to done me well.
No, I think you hit it right on the head. As a matter of fact, here in Charlotte Harbor, we, you know, come the summertime, once the rain started, we normally have that kind of tea-colored water anyway, because it's kind of inland from Boca Grande. You really get around Cape Hayes and Boca Grande to get to the blue water. So, you know, it generally has that kind of tea tint to it. And you're absolutely right. If you use, say you're using a spoon or something, you use something that's a brass color or a copper color, you'll do a lot better than you will with a silver spoon. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Mark.
Yep, yeah, some flash in that dark water don't hurt either, definitely. But I'll tell you, the best color I've had success with when it gets murky. See, we don't get the tea-colored water here. We get a pea soup. It gets really bad here. And the color I've had the most success in those conditions is a root beer with a chartreuse tail, because it's got that nice natural brown color, and then you've got the chartreuse tail, which offers a nice little piece of contrast. And that to me, that's the color that excels when it gets real nasty here.
Yep, I understand what you're saying. Is you know, you're matching the water and the color so the fish don't see something as being really alien, you know, to what they're used to seeing. You know, it kind of matches what's around them, the environment, whether it's a flash of color, whether it's, you know, just a fade of color. You know, it seems that's absolutely right. So if it's too outstanding, if it's too, you know, too bright and too loud, you know, the fish tend to, at least I think the fish tend to ignore it. And so I think you're right.
It depends a lot on their mood as well. If you look on YouTube, there's a fella, I think it was in Texas, and he's on this boat whipping out, he's putting jalapenos on a fish hook and whipping them into these redfish, and they're just annihilating it. So, and I mean, that goes to show you that, you know, depending on their mood, sometimes they'll eat anything in their path. Sometimes they're shut down, laid down, and they won't touch anything. So, you know, definitely water conditions play a big role in it, but also the attitude of the fish. That's another thing you really got to consider.
Yeah, that's for sure. Matter of fact, I remember growing up, we had a fisherman locally in my neighborhood. I lived on the water down here off Charlotte Harbor, and he actually got into a match with a couple of the local fishermen sitting in his garage drinking beer, and they were talking about what they use to get snook, and everybody's going across their little thing, and then old Bert Dodd gets up, and he just wraps an old beer tag, the kinds that used to pull off the can. He wrapped it around a tribble hook, put a little weight on it, and casted it out there in the canal, just started ripping it across the water. And I bet within about 5-10 minutes he had a little snook on the line. And he walked in and says, I just did that to prove to all you guys that every single one of you are right. If you put a bait in front of a fish and it wants it and you do it just right and move it, it's going to hit it. And he was right.
Yeah, if they're in the right mood, you can really capitalize on some aggressive fish. But sometimes you really got to finesse them. It's kind of a case-by-case basis. Sometimes you get lucky and they're just pigging out. But other times, and more often, I find you've really got to finesse them. And if you take your time and get your angles right, that's not a problem at all. But they can hit any color at any given time. But like I say, my rule of thumb is kind of match your bait to the water and the sky conditions, and that's never done me wrong. So
well, that's
a good way to look at it.
It works, and I tell you what, too, Mark. You guys, you're on a kayak. You're out there on the water. It's I've seen these guys running around in these flats boats, and as a kayak fisherman, as an angler, you got to get out there. You got to look to where you're going. You got to know the area. You got to read it. You've got a few hours, and you're not going to be shooting around 50 miles an hour from one fishing spot, one side of the lagoon to the other, and trying to find fish and sight them. And then if this don't work out, well, hell, I could be 100 nautical miles away from here in 20 minutes and try that. So, you guys that are out there and you're fishing in the kayaks and canoes and you're playing in the backwater, you really have to have a plan and have to have some knowledge of that water before you spend the day heading out there, and fishing it. So I always love to talk to guys that are doing the kayaking and the backwater fishing, because you got to know the water, you got to know the fish, or you're going to do a lot of work and get nowhere.
That's the cool thing about our area. We've got so many little launches around here that you can dunk in where the fish are, and you don't have to paddle your butt off all day to go find them. If you strategically pick your launch point based on wind and current reports or whatever, you'll find them. I mean, it's just out here this time of year, you can't not find them. You're going to find something.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. And, Florida right now is just hot. The warm water's moving in. The tides are coming up higher. Summertime, we always have higher tides. I know over on the other coast where you guys are, you guys have crazy tides. I was looking at your tide chart, and I think I was looking at like 6-7 foot swings in high and low tide. So, compared to what we play, about 2, maybe 3 foot if it's real crazy.
Well, see, the thing about our area, in the Indian River Lagoon and the Banana River and the Mosquito Lagoon, a portion of it is tidal, the closer you get to New Smyrna. But for the most part, our inshore waters are not tidal at all. We don't get any tide swing, and in a way it's more challenging because when you're fishing with the tides, you know what the fish are going to do based on the tides.
That's true.
But when there's no tide, there's nothing to move the bait in and out, so the fish are constantly following the food. It's like, you got to look at it like it's a big salty lake. That's what it is,
Yeah, that's interesting. I see what you mean. So rather than really, waiting and hiding and for the tide to flush the bait out, they're actually running around hunting for bait. So yeah, no doubt.
Exactly. All our fish are always on the move. They're always looking for the food, and that's how you can capitalize on our fishery here, is just, find the bait. And more often than not, you're going to find fish staged up around them.
Yep, no doubt. Very nice. Yep, that's good advice. And that's really good fishing. Like I said, you get back into these lagoons and stuff in the backcountry, and there's just, it's great fishing, it's big fish, and you get with somebody on a kayak, especially somebody like Mark, that'll teach you, how to get out there and find the fish, how to fish for them. I mean, it's invaluable. Fantastic.
Yep, and that's all you need out here, and this is why I love this area. You don't need anything, you need something to float on, and you need a handful of lures, and you're in there. You can catch trophies.
Well, looking at the Banks lures, that's for sure. So, like I said, every time
get yourself a handful of Banks lures, definitely.
I'm telling you, every time I look at your site, and you got one of the most impressive updates that you do every day with fish. At least a couple of times a week, you've got definitely got a trophy-sized fish in your hand. And it's always got a Banks lure hanging out of its face, so that's fantastic.
Yep, I mean, they really respond to them lures, and I mean, the reason I bought them off the bat, I didn't really know Ricky, I didn't know much about Banks lures, and I saw on the package it said made in Cocoa, Florida. I said, oh, that's pretty cool, let me grab a bag, and man, I have not looked back since. They're great lures, and like I say, I wouldn't throw anything else. I highly recommend them to anybody. And on the Flats Creeper, a 5/0 twist lock hook. On the Doc Boss or the Mangrove Mercenary, a 3/0 twist lock hook, and that's definitely important to get your hookup ratio right.
Oh yeah, very good. And I've always said it, local baits made by local fishermen to catch local fish. And you can't beat it. You guys know these waters better than anybody, and you damn well know what the fish are hitting, what they're biting, and what they're going to go after. So that's fantastic. Hey, Mark, I sure do appreciate it, bud. This is a great show. Got a good review of the area. Got a good discussion about Banks lures and some good baits that work in your area. And we're going to get some of them over here on this coast because I want to play with those. I want to get Chris out there with a couple of them. He's crazy for soft baits, and I'm going to play with some of those top baits. And I think we're going to have a good time with them out here. We'll get some video or some pictures of it, and definitely get it posted on your next show with you. So
yeah, definitely. Cool. If you get some pictures of that pretty Banks hanging out their mouth. That's what we like.
You got it. I sure appreciate it, Mark. And everybody, again, check out Mark's Facebook class. He has a Space Coast Fishing class on Facebook. You could call Mark at 321-460-3644. He has some fantastic fishing classes over on the Space Coast of Florida. He gets you in the kayak. He gets you out there and teaches you how to fish, where to fish, what to use. Pretty much everything you need to know to have a good time when you're down here in Florida. Whether you move here permanently or you're just down for a couple of months on vacation, definitely get Mark a call.
If you Google Space Coast Fishing Class, you'll find it all. So check that out. Check out bankslures.com, definitely. Also, Sam Magazine, Shallow Addiction Magazine. The samsite.com, you can find them, and that's a great online magazine. I think they hit like over a million views last month or something crazy like that. Packed with information. It's a great magazine to read through, and yeah, check them all out. Yeah, get a little taste of the Space Coast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful area, and Sam Magazine is great. As a matter of fact, if you're checking out Mark's radio show, there's a link in his quick links where you can go right into Sam Magazine and check them out. And also, when you're listening to the show, you could click on the satellite view and get a satellite overhead view of the whole Space Coast, so you can see what we're talking about. And also, if you click on where it says Bait Shop during his show, you could see all the Banks lures. You could order them right online. Contact Captain Banks and ask him about his baits. And also
custom colors. Don't forget, we got custom colors. Anything you can think of, if you send him a picture, he'll match it.
Yep, there you go. Anything you need, you got a picture of it. He'll match up the colors, get the action you need, the color you need to have the winning bait that you think you need to have. So that's awesome too. So yeah, check it out, and we'll definitely be back with Mark in about a week or so. And we sure do appreciate it, Mark. Thank you, and that's some great information, bud.
Hey, no problem, man. Happy to do it.
Hey, you guys have a wonderful day, and get out there, do a little fishing, and if you can, send us some pictures and video, bud. I'd love to have it. In fact, we're updating all of our radio shows to video, so what we're going to have is, in some cases, we may have some video that we get from, whether it's a lure manufacturer or from the host himself or something like that. We're going to include like a montage of pictures that we download from their Facebook website, stuff like that. And so you'll be able to, listen to the show, see the fish that they're catching, and as time goes on, we're going to start collecting video and set it up so that we can get video easy from our hosts and actually watch them in action. You'll be able to see Mark on his kayak reeling in the fish. So it should be
perfect. I'm actually fixing to head out to the No Motor Zone, and I'm bringing the GoPro with me.
Oh, wow.
It seems like every time I bring that thing, it's a coast, but maybe today will be different.
It's a little bit awkward. It's a fantastic camera setup. I mean, you just can't beat it. But when you're setting up your vessel for it, you really got to put some thought into it because it's so easy to get. It'll get in the way so easy. So yeah, it's definitely can be. Got to put some thought into that bugger when you set it up.
Oh yeah.
All right, Mark. I thank you, buddy, and you have a wonderful day.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You got it. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Yeah, it's always great talking to Mark. He really knows that area. He knows those waters well. He's been there for years and years, really fishing the waters and using baits that are designed and engineered and tested right in Florida waters. So when he goes out there, he's one of the guys, and I've always said it, these guys that are pro staffers that are testing these baits and getting out there and seeing what works, these are the guys that are really getting that information back to the manufacturers to zero in on a product that is going to just get fish. It's going to catch fish, it's going to attract them, they're going to grab that bait, not let it go. So, and a matter of fact, I was waiting for Marcus sending me a video. I think we were going to be able to get it into this show with some redfish that he caught. He didn't want to give up the spot because it's a great spot. He's got a tournament coming up. So we had to really crop in on the fish itself, and at the end of the video, not to give up the area. So he let us do it, and I'm waiting for his approval on the final clip so we can put it in this show. If it's all good, we're going to have it in here. But it's a beautiful redfish Marc caught on one of Bank's soft baits. And really great. So hopefully we'll get that okayed by Marc, and we'll get it in the show, and that'll be awesome. You'll love to see it. Thanks again, Marc, and we'll see you again and hear you again next week. And you folks, I sure appreciate you tuning in and checking it out. We have more updates coming. Excuse me, I need more coffee this morning. We have more updates coming up from Sarasota, from Charlotte County, from Lee County. All around Florida. We've got, I believe we're going to go ahead and bring Lake Okeechobee in, and we've got some guys on kayaks here in Charlotte County. We're really glad. We've been talking to Westwall Kayaks over in Murdoch, and I believe they have a couple of pro staffers we're going to be talking to. We're going to get some video and photos from them, and really have a good time with that too. So we sure appreciate that over at Westwall Kayak. And you folks have a great Friday. Get out there, go fishing. If you see a guy like me, if you see a guy, and it is me, and it will be, coming up to your boat with a camera, with a mic, with a lot of questions, I'm not Alan Funt. If you know who that is, then you're way too old. I'm not the IRS, and I'm not law enforcement. It's just Frank from FishyFins.com, and I'm coming up to get a fish story. So if you would, be cool and give me a great fish story, and have a wonderful day.